convener.
No pressure then, okay. Moderator Tom Riddell, 561, convener of the Social Care Council. A broken system, a time of crisis, staff at tipping point, urgent action required. It's the stuff of nightmares if you follow the news reports on social care in Scotland. So just how worried should we be about social care in general, and specifically about Crossreach, the Church of Scotland's own social care arm at this time? Well, the past year paints a mixed picture. The feedback from those who are cared for and supported by Crossreach, whether in our children's services, adult care services or older people services, would suggest that there is still much to be optimistic about. The latest service user survey asked a number of questions about people's perceptions of the care delivered and how far they thought their own views were listened to and enacted. And the results were universally positive, with high levels of satisfaction on all fronts being reported. Our latest impacts report released today, and with a link in your Assembly report, is brimming with positivity, capturing stories of success from a number of different service areas. I would invite you to read it if you have not done so already. Crossreach is seen as an organisation making a valuable contribution to some of Scottish society's big issues, playing a part in tackling Scotland's drug deaths and attracting significant investment to increase the number of residential rehabilitation places we will be able to offer in the future. And also working in collaboration with a number of partners from within the Church to think about how we can reduce stigma around substance use so that people can ask for help more easily. Working to keep the promise for Scotland's children so that children, young people and their families are given the resources and the support needed to help them to thrive and to reach their full potential, whether at home or in another setting. And collaborating with different partners, including a number of churches, to ensure that people living with dementia are well supported in their communities through the growth of our much-loved Heart for Art groups. These are good news stories for Crossreach, but they're also good news stories for the whole of the Church of Scotland, as it fulfills part of its own ministry and mission in responding to human need by loving service. The positive contribution of the work to the work of the Church was most recently recognised by the Assembly Trustees Working Group. They have been considering the relationship between Crossreach and the wider Church of Scotland, and they made several welcome recommendations about how we can now move forward together. So you might ask, what's the problem? At the first run of our World Cafe events, introduced in late 2022, where staff, supported people and board members met together to see how improvements to services might be made, we heard once again about how lives had been transformed as a result of coming into contact with a Crossreach service. However, we also heard with absolute clarity how important supportive and enabling relationships are to making change possible. We listened to people tell us about how shortages of staff and inconsistencies in staffing can cut across the nature of the care and support being provided, the choices that people make, and the activities on offer, in addition to the impact on good communications between supported people and those supporting them. And perhaps there is where we start to understand some of the cracks in the social care system and why it is under strain. We know that recruitment and retention of a skilled, qualified and experienced workforce is key to delivering good quality support, but it has never been harder. There are, of course, recruitment issues in many sectors. However, our task has been made particularly difficult by the fact that there is a recognised delay to deliver a promise of fair work to the social care system across Scotland. While we pay the best salaries that we can afford, many experienced social care staff have left for better paid jobs in the NHS or other sectors, forced to make very difficult choices between supporting the people with whom they have made strong, enabling relationships and the need to support their own families due to the cost of living increases. And as a consequence, we as a social care provider also have had to make difficult choices about who to support and what we can offer, often relying on expensive agency staff to meet the requirements of the contracts we operate under, which in turn affects our ability to budget and run services sustainably. The recent supplementary report by Community Integrated Support entitled Unfair to Care, which you will see in our report, highlights how far the wages of social care workers have now fallen against 3 critical benchmarks, including those doing equivalent jobs in the NHS, those working in local government or for other not-for-profit agencies, and those working in the retail sector. Our skilled, qualified, experienced and dedicated staff in the voluntary sector are now at least 19% behind their counterparts in other agencies. And that is not right. That has to change. At an event on the 11th of May, Archbishop Nolan and the Right Reverend Dr. Greenshields signed a declaration calling for further government action and inviting faith leaders across the country to get involved in effecting that change. You can see the declaration and add your own signature or encourage faith leaders in your community to sign up on the Crossreach website. We all have a part to play in the recruitment effort. And this year we are asking presbyteries to support us by circulating our vacancies within their own networks. Despite all of the challenges, the personal rewards are hugely fulfilling, and we are very thankful for our dedicated and loyal workforce who make such a difference in the lives of others every day. Our newly introduced recruitment system makes it easier than ever to apply. You can find out more at our stall in the Martin Hall and in our impact report, and applications are always very welcome. The workforce issue is not just critical to Crossreach, but to the future of social care as a whole. In a government consultation last year, people of all ages clearly said that they want more control over their own lives, and that they should be free to make the lifestyle and support choices which suit them in order to live life to the full. And we fully support those views. But we also know that there are waiting lists in many areas of social care, and that is becoming more and more difficult for people to access the support that they need. The National Care Service Scotland Bill, which was laid before Parliament in June 2022, was seen to be the answer. It proposes a change in the way in which social care is overseen, putting accountability directly into the hands of government ministers. It has at its centre a commitment to uphold human rights and enable people to thrive and fulfil their full potential by accessing the types of support which best suit them. However, there are some challenges which have been identified with the bill, and its passage through stage 1 has now been delayed twice. We would urge church members to read the briefing papers which will soon be prepared by members of the Faith Action Team and Crossreach, so that they can understand the purpose, potential and limitations of this important bill, which is described as the biggest shake-up of health and social care services since the creation of the NHS. We encourage them to make representations through all the appropriate channels as it passes through Parliament to ensure that what follows is the best that Scotland can deliver. That the Church should take interest in such matters is highlighted in the latest report of the Church of England Archbishops Reimagining Care Commission. The report proposes a national care covenant for England, where the delivery of social care is facing similar challenges. And the foreword states, Jesus Christ offers us life in all its fullness. And so we strive for a society in which no one is held back or disregarded or treated as surplus and just a burden because of their age or their ability. We stand with the Commission in its call to rethink attitudes towards ageing and disability within every aspect of our society, including churches, recognising that every single person has equal value and dignity and must be treated as such. At the heart of this report is a deeply Christian understanding of what it looks like to live together in community, with people caring for and supporting one another in relationships characterised by mutuality and interdependence. So, back to the question, how worried should we be? Well, my view is that we should certainly remain appropriately concerned about social care and its challenges, both for Crossreach and for society as a whole. But that we should put aside worry to concentrate on the many positive things that are happening and which give us, the Social Care Council, hope for the future. Many of the big risks which were identified 5 years ago by the leadership team have been dealt with, and they are now working through the financial factors which affect longer-term sustainability, making difficult decisions where they are needed. Quality remains high, and income, including new and welcome investment, remains strong. The Assembly Trustees Task Group have now finished their work and have declared that Crossreach is an important asset for the Church. That all gives us very strong foundations and will enable us to build on the supportive relationships that we have with so many individuals, congregations and organisations around the country. Our Share the Love campaign, which you can also read about in our impact report, is a great way for you to be involved. Working together, we can continue to make a difference to people like Hugh and Elizabeth, who will be celebrating their 68th wedding anniversary in the summertime after moving together into South Beach House, Ardrossan, to get the support they both needed. People like Philip, who now has a secure job, is a loving dad, and was shortlisted as Scottish Social Services Awards finalist in the Bright Spark in Social Work category, having worked hard to overcome his addiction and find a route out of homelessness with support from Crossreach Recovery Services. People like Jaden and Xander, who were struggling at mainstream school and are now successful pupils and an inspiration to others at our Erskine School campus. The social care system may be under significant pressure, but there is hope, and there are signs of life in all its fullness within Crossreach and in the wider Church of Scotland. Moderator, I present the report, and as I am not a commissioner, I would ask the Principal Clerk to move the deliverance.
I move the deliverance.
Seconded.
Thank you. Point of order. Name and number, please.
Eric Smith, Commissioner 264. Just to note, for Assembly to note that this report is not actually present in the EPUB version downloadable from the website. It is only available in PDF. So some commissioners like myself have been struggling to find the report.
Business convener? We're looking. Thank you for letting us know that. And while the business convener is looking, I'm going to get ahead of the game. On my screen, I have one question from David Cameron and two people hoping to speak, Malcolm Kinnear and Ian Greenshields. Are those questions or comments? Thank you. Yes. Okay, you're not on my screen, but That's quite all right. That is quite all right. Just as long as we know. Just as long as we know. David Cameron, if you'd like to start, because you've got a question, and that is absolutely superb. We'll stick with questions at first, please.
Thank you, Moderator. I'm sorry it wasn't a question. I might have made a mistake. It's a comment. What I was going to say to the Assembly was just a wee bit about the task group. But Ian Forrester is here and is also invited to speak. So if he can do that at the appropriate time, that's all I was going to do.
Thank you, David. That's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. We begin with questions. So if you have a question, whether you're on the screen or not, I'm happy for you to come forward now. Otherwise, we will move to the first section. Business convener.
Thank you, Moderator. I tend to be a PDF guy myself rather than EPUB. Some of the documents were available in that format. I've downloaded the EPUB now. I haven't been able to verify yet whether there is a report that's missing. In the nicest possible way, I think I want to say the reports are published on the internet in order that they're looked at in advance of the time of the debate. And I'm sorry that this situation may have arisen, but I think at this late stage, my only advice would be to find the PDF document, which definitely has the report in full. Thank you.
Thank you, Business Convener. Seeing no questions on my screen, we're going to move to Section 1, Receive the Report. Okay. And online? Great. I call for, we've got 3 people on the screen, Malcolm Kinnear, Ian Greenshields, then Ian Forrester. Microphone 81. You're on.
Okay. Malcolm Kinnear, 452. I thank the convener for his report. I do want all of us in our congregations and presbyteries to take more interest and follow the work of Crossreach, and one of the simplest ways that we can do so is by downloading the Crossreach app onto our phones or onto our church websites, and that allows us on a daily basis to follow the weekly Crossreach prayer diary. We should celebrate the work that's done on behalf of the church in social care. From my own experience of working with Crossreach and social responsibility, I was inspired by many Christian workers who are expressing their Christian calling in this service. I was also inspired by one of my superiors to reflect upon what it really means to do things in Christ's name. And that thought has remained with me over the years. Jesus says that greater things than I do, you shall do. And it was just to encourage us all to take the message of Crossreach back home and encourage people to follow it and on a regular basis. Thank you.
Thank you. Ian Greenshields. Thanks, Ian.
Thank you, Moderator. It was one of the most positive experiences of my moderatorial year to have spent an extensive amount of time with Crossreach. And I just want to say some of the following things. Care home, care. Care that was warm, genuine, compassionate, loving, and evident in every home that we went to. Home. Exactly what the word says. Where we went were homes, where people were at home, where people were treated as if they were in their own home. And I only wish that every such places that I go to had the same ethos. It was outstanding. The same was true of recovery projects. Recovery projects that really were recovering people. And Linda, my wife, said at the end of one of the visits, these people, referring to people who are now working in Crossreach, who'd been through recovery, these people's lives really shine. And she was absolutely spot on. And working across and visiting across the whole range of what Crossreach does for young adults, seeing what Crossreach does in every aspect of their working environment, excellence abounds. And I think that we should be extremely proud that Crossreach is associated with our church. I think we should be encouraged to be as supportive as we possibly can be. And finally, I would say that we as a church have a great deal to learn from them too. So all I would say about Crossreach is impressed beyond words at everything that we saw, and well done to them.
The convener would like to respond.
Moderator, if I could respond to that, thanking Ian for his very supportive comments, and also thanking Ian and Linda on behalf of Crossreach for all the support that they gave to the many services that they visited during the past year. And moderator, we look forward to also welcoming you and Stuart in the year to come.
Thank you. Thank you, convener. Ian Forrester.
Microphone 31. I am 541 Ian Forrester, an elder from St Andrews in Brussels. And I had a very small part in the drafting of one of the reports as the successor of Jim Wallace on the subject of Crossreach. I can't say more eloquently than the two who spoke before me, the qualities of Crossreach establishments, which are astonishing, moving, exciting, amusing, entertaining, deeply, deeply, deeply touching. They said it, I don't need further to repeat it. I have three thoughts. One is that Crossreach's name is largely unknown in the streets in Scotland and even in the pews. Last Friday, I was at a dinner. I asked 6 people, strangers relatively, what's Crossreach? None of them had heard of it, and that was in Edinburgh. Ask in the railway carriage when you go home, has anyone heard of Crossreach? No, they haven't. So there is a challenge, and Crossreach's achievements deserve not to be the object of, that was really very nice. They deserve to be trumpeted, to be celebrated. We talk in the Old Testament about trumpets and cymbals and thunderings. Lovely. We should do that for Crossreach, which is a truly enriching and rich, morally speaking, activity of the Church of Scotland. Now, I make a small suggestion. One way of enhancing the knowledge and understanding of the church, in the church, of the activities of Crossreach would be a kind of twinning or an adoption. A church and the local establishment get to know each other better. Perhaps they already do that. Now, this is not just pride and enthusiasm and, whew, that's something wonderful. Every single person in this hall has a duty, I suggest, to make Crossreach's activities known to the family, to the friends, to the person in the shop. Now that's to give us pride. But there's another reason. The governments in Scotland should be deeply embarrassed at the fact that they pay so little for the advantages that Crossreach confers upon them. Now, governments spend money when governments are embarrassed. Better knowledge of what Crossreach does may translate into an embarrassment factor which could lead to a budget surplus.
Thank you. We move to section 2. It's not up yet on the screen. There we go. Excellent. Section 2, I don't see anyone wanting to speak, so section 2 is simply approve section 2. And online. Okay. Thank you. Section 3. Okay. And online. Section 4. Wonderful. Come to the mic, and if we could have your name and your number, please.
It's Andrea Fraser, 289. I had logged a comment to speak on section 3, if possible.
Oh. It didn't come through, but don't worry. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Of course.
I just wanted to say it's fantastic to see the work of Crossreach throughout this report, but to see the achievement in securing your rehab facilities is one that should be celebrated, especially as a faith-based organisation in a very challenging sector. This is where some of the best work happens in Crossreach, and working on the margins, on the edges of society, in parts of which society does not want to notice or acknowledge at these times. I've seen some of the excellent work of Crossreach Substance Use Services this year and heard stories of hope, stories of folk being in recovery, being believed, and where second, third and fourth chances were given by the service. This work has been discussed beyond stigma, is one that the whole church needs to be involved in, calling out language and prejudice when we hear it, educating and re-educating ourselves when necessary. So this report is not just one for those who work in Crossreach and for those who serve within that organisation, but a reminder that much of our business thus far has been inward focusing. But of course, an important part of our week, but this report reminds us that we are an outward-focused church too, meeting folk where they are, accepting them for who they are and all their experiences, working with and simply loving all as we are called to do. So I wish to congratulate Crossreach on their work in this area and their staff, of whom many are unseen. Thank you for all the work that you do.
Thank you, and thank you for persevering. Section 4. And online. Thank you. Section 5. Thank you. And I urge people to take a leaf out of our last speaker's book. If you want to speak and your name doesn't come up, then holler. We've got Karen Gillen. Karen.
31, thank you. Thank you, moderator.
Name and
number
please.
Gillen 248. Just a couple of points. Firstly, in my role as General Secretary of the Church of Scotland Guild, we're delighted to take up Ian's challenge of pairing guilds with Crossreach facilities, and we're looking forward to how better we can do that. But moderator, in communities across Scotland, there are children for whom life is challenging, children for whom life is confusing and difficult. These children often struggle at school as a result. They find themselves outside the Hedes office, and then they're suspended. And then they're moved to another school and they're outside another Hedes office and they're suspended, and so the cycle goes on and on. We've had a lot of talk about the quote from Reverend Desmond Tutu. These children are in the river, and people are not always looking for the reason why. These children become young people and they leave school without the qualifications of life or the skills that enable them to cope with adulthood. These children and young people are made in the image of God and are loved by Him, but have often been written off by society. In section 6.3 of the report, mention is made of the Erskine waterfront campus. How many folk in this room knew, honestly, that the Church of Scotland through Crossreach ran a school that wasn't in Israel? A few. It is an amazing facility. The staff, the cooks, the cleaners support children from whom the normal school setup has been impossible. They're all part of a family type of education. Yes, there are boundaries, but there is love and care and support. What I saw in this school was children being enabled to achieve their potential, being shown the love of God in a real and practical way. They're not written off. They're valued as the precious children of God that they are. One of the challenges in delivering the school and the small communities houses that support it are workforce planning and pay. Tom detailed very clearly the challenges that Crossreach face in pay. The national minimum wage and the national living wage have made a real difference to people, and I welcome that, believe me, as I do plans by the Scottish Government to introduce a real living wage, but that must be fully funded. However, support staff who work with children and families are not covered by the government's funding of the real living wage. As a result, their pay levels continue to fall below those of their colleagues who work with adults. This is an issue of justice and fairness, Assembly. We would not accept a nurse in a geriatric ward of a hospital being paid less than a nurse who worked in a paediatric ward, and neither should we accept it for the care sector. It's also an issue of gender. Report after report show that one of the key issues that result in the undervaluing of care work is the fact that it's largely undertaken by women. Women make up the majority of those who are cared for, and they are also the majority of the workforce. Investing in the care sector, opening up opportunities, and designing quality jobs that are fair could bring many people, especially women, into the workforce, helping to respond to the challenges that Brexit has no doubt given us, and working to reduce the gender pay gap. The systematic erosion in the working experiences of care workers has not happened overnight. However, there is no doubt that the increasingly market-led care system creates competition, commissioning and tendering practices that together depress hourly rates and generate low pay, as well as limit job security and hours sufficiency for some. It should not be allowed to continue. And I believe we as the General Assembly need to say so. It's all very well for us to tap our feet and vote through the Crossreach report and the deliverances. But of course, raising the pay of care workers costs money. Including children and family workers in the real living wage pledge would cost even more. But surely these staff deserve to be given the same dignity that they give the people they work with. Tom's right. If you embarrass governments, they find money. we found 14.5% for junior doctors. I don't grudge them that pay settlement, but I do believe that money could and should be found for those working in the care sector. As Christians, we are called to speak out when we see injustice. I would urge everyone in this hall to sign up to the Scottish Faith Leaders' Declaration on Fair Pay for Carers. But more than that, I urge us all to go back to our parishes and into our congregations and urge our members to go and speak with their 8 MSPs that each of us have, speak with the councillors, and urge them to end this injustice and give caregivers the dignity that they deserve. Our caregivers, the people that I saw in Erskine Waterfront, caring for Jaden and Desanda, deserve nothing less from the Church of Scotland General Assembly.
Thank you. I have Tim Norwood on my screen.
Phone 51. Moderator, I think I'm probably speaking slightly out of order, but in order to speak into... where are we at this point?
It doesn't matter. It's
It doesn't
section
matter.
6, but do not worry.
Generally, I wanted to say encouraging things, really, if that's okay.
Go for it.
And thank you for this report in general and all the work that you're doing. It's really exciting to see and hear all that's been spoken about this afternoon. Add my voice of support for the campaign for living wage for care workers. And thank you for your references to the Archbishop's report, and basically to say that our situations, they're obviously slightly different, England and Scotland, but we face many common realities and in the pursuit of social justice. And we very much want to continue to work with you and to find new ways that we can address the challenges that face the whole United Kingdom. So I just really wanted to give a message of support and encouragement, and thank you for all that you're doing here.
Thank you. I see no one else on my screen, and I don't see anybody at a microphone. So section 6. Assembly. And online, thank you. Section 7. And online, thank you. And the deliverance as a whole. Before you go, thank you. Thank you.